Hello, I am Enrique Quesada, and this is Mexico Centered, a podcast from the Center for the United States and Mexico at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. Tamaulipas, a thriving industrial state with a major seaport and the country's richest shale reserves, represents many of the complexities that face Mexico, and more specifically, those of the northern states. Alongside a positive economic outlook, Tamaulipas is also a hub of drug trafficking and a major passageway for undocumented migration. Francisco Javier Garcia Cabeza de Vaca, governor of Tamaulipas, visited the Baker Institute to discuss his administration's plans to tackle drug-related violence and improve public safety, as well as increase the production of shale gas and oil. After the event, I sat down with Governor Garcia Cabeza de Vaca to ask him a few questions about these plans and about his political future. Francisco Javier Garcia Cabeza de Vaca is the current governor of the state of Tamaulipas. Previously, he served as a local deputy in the Tamaulipas Congress, as well as a federal deputy and a senator. Here's our conversation. Francisco Javier Garcia Cabeza de Vaca, governor of Tamaulipas, thank you for accepting the invitation to be on the Mexico Center podcast, and welcome back to Houston, to which you are no stranger.
That's right. Gracias. Thank you, Enrique. It's a great pleasure to be here at Rice University, and one of the most important cities in the United States, especially this one, Texas, Houston, which when I went to school with. I went to HBU, so I'm very happy to be here again.
Well, so let's talk about Tamaulipas. Tamaulipas is a state that it's representative of other northern states in the country. On the one hand, it is an industrial state with an important middle class, but it is also a state with serious issues of violence and drug trafficking. So before we delve into some specific issues, I would like to ask, how did you find Tamaulipas when you became governor in 2016, and where is Tamaulipas today?
Well, let's start by saying that Tamaulipas was governed by the same political party for 86 years. So a lot of things were out of place, a lot of corruption taking place. The institutions weren't well established. Institutions like the police department, the justice department, and some others had to be changed. So when I got into office in October of 2016, I started to do many changes. I knew that I had to do something with the security issues. That's why I put a lot of effort during the first years in all the security matters, especially doing some training, equip our police force. We increased 100% the number of police officers, and we also pay them better. They're the second police officers in all Mexico, better paid. So all those things helped us out to make sure that we have a better institution. Institution that has given real good results. Last year, Tamaulipas was considered the third state with best results in security matters, and that had helped us to gain something, Enrique, that you cannot buy with any money in the world. That's the trust and the confidence of the people, of the investors, and that's what we have gained. And you can see it right away because Tamaulipas now is the sixth state with most foreign investment in all Mexico. And we also are in the top 10 states that produces or generates more new jobs.
So let's talk a little bit about infrastructure. There is this project to have a new port in Matamoros, and presumably this port would compete with the one in Corpus Christi or in Texas, and maybe even the one in Houston. But there is already a port in Altamira.
That's right.
So what is the rationale for having another port, and is it viable then to add one more to this area that seems to have many?
Well, let's start by saying that the port of Matamoros their main purpose is to give the supplies and everything that is needed for the exploration and extraction of deep waters in the Gulf of Mexico. And the port of Altamira, it's a port that receive more cargo, and the exports of finished automobiles that are sent to the United States and some other places in the world. So these two ports do not compete with each other. But not only that, I think that these ports will not only compete with each other, but will not compete with the others, like the one you mentioned in Corpus Christi. The way we see it, that they're going to complement each other. Like working, with all the exports and imports. Sooner or later, they have to get inland, one way or the other. Either they do it by transportation, by road or by rail, or they do it, by boat. And the cheapest way to move the cargo is by boat. That's why, like I said, it's going to be a complement, with these two ports that you just mentioned.
So, on a related note, because you touched a little bit on energy here,
yeah.
Tamaulipas has significant shale reserves
right.
in the Burgos Basin. So, can you tell me a little bit about how your government wants to capitalize on this for its economic development? And given that the energy sector is a main part of President López Obrador's nationalistic rhetoric, what challenges does this pose to gas exploration and development in the area?
It's going to happen, first of all, because there's a new energy reform. But besides that, because we need it. But let me give you an example. Everyone knows what the area Eagle Ford, right? You're in Texas, where a lot of shale gas and oil has been extracted. That area does not stop at the Rio Grande River. It goes all the way to Mexico, basically to Tamaulipas. So we have Tamaulipas has one of the biggest reserves of oil and gas in all Mexico. Close to 40% of all the reserves that we have, they're located basically in Tamaulipas. And we strongly believe that all these new technologies that have been being used through the last 10 years here in Texas can be applied in Tamaulipas. And that will be a surplus, especially when we have the experience in small and medium companies that are here located in Texas. That's why I decided to come here to Houston, to talk about the advantages that Tamaulipas has, the opportunities of investment, not only in the ports, but also in drilling and extracting gas and oil, and where all both sides of the border can benefit out of all new opportunities that are going to be given in Tamaulipas.
So let's move on a little bit to the areas of human and other economic development. I kind of want to know what your government is focused on in these areas, right? What are some strategies to make Tamaulipas more competitive? As automation displaces certain types of workers and jobs, is there a model beyond manufacturing?
Yes, we have real good universities. They're working in some investigations, but we also are preparing our new students for the demand of the energy sector. And let me give you one example. We convinced this company, which is one of the biggest companies that produces wind energy. It's called Vestas. They're from Denmark. We convinced them to come in Tamaulipas and produce some of the part of that. How do you call the air generator? They're building the blades, but they also said that they needed technicians, to give the services to those air generators. So what we did is. We made an agreement with them. They came. They teach these kids, the new students, how to do that work. And instead of bringing people elsewhere, they're using their human resources or labor to do those services. And that's not only in the wind energy. We're talking about also in some other areas that are become very important for us, especially when you're talking about the energy sector.
So what about the USMCA? So how is this good for Tamaulipas? Is it bad for manufacturing or other economic developments?
You're talking about TEMEC, right?
Yes.
Sorry. Every country has their own name.
That is true. That's true.
To the people that are hearing us, here they call it what?
USMCA.
USMCA.
The United States, Mexico, Canada.
TMEC, Trade of Mexico, United States, and Canada. Anyways, the same.
The same one.
I think it's good for all of us. It's good because we're going to make sure we can compete with other countries. I strongly believe that our competition is not between us. It's between other countries like in Asia, you know. And the TEMEC, as we call it in Mexico, is going to bring more trade between these three countries, Canada, United States, and Mexico. Is going to create new opportunities. And we need to explore more areas that can be grown, but at the same time, we need to prepare for this growth.
So, for the past few years, it seems that every single year in Mexico there's been a new record of the number of homicides. So it's no surprise to anyone that Mexico it's really struggling with public security, and as I said at the beginning, Tamaulipas is also plagued with violence. There's a variety of criminal groups and organizations that control different territories of the state. And as you said, you've increased police force, paid them better. Can you talk a little bit more about the strategy and how you are taking on these criminal groups and trying to regain control of the territories that they occupied? And what may be some metrics that you're using that okay, this shows that our strategy is being successful, or maybe it's not. National
metrics is not something that we do by ourselves. It wouldn't be right. Because who's going to tell exactly what's going on? Anyways, even though the violence has grown the last year, not in Tamaulipas, we are one of the states that has been decreasing dramatically, but in Tamaulipas, but you can tell right away that things are being done well, because where there's no security, there's no trust. When there's no trust, there's no investment. There's no investment, there are no new jobs. Well, this is all the contrary of what's happening in Tamaulipas. We have more investment. We're in the top 10 of creating of new jobs. We broke a record of tourism last year, more than 9 million visitors and tourists coming into Tamaulipas, and this is all due to the work that we've been doing in the security matters. And let me tell you something that we have done. We're the first state in the history in Mexico that worked together with 7 agencies in the United States. That has never happened before. And the thing is that we have realized that many of the criminals that were harming our families, they were dual citizens. And they would do harm and do bad things in one side and sleep in the other side. So what I did is talk to the agencies, and I told them, we're talking about Homeland Security, CBP, FBI, DEA, and some others. We got together and said, hey, we need to do something about it. They're saying criminals, some of them are binationals. They go back and forth. We need to go after them. So what we did is we point out, we look up which were the most important criminals, the ones that were harming, the more violent ones, and we put pictures, in billboards, right on the bridges, on the boarding crosses, and we put a 1-800 number where the people could call, and tell us if they had seen them, and that strategy worked because 8 of the 10 most wanted criminals that worked in both sides of the border have been captured. And that has helped us to gain trust, confidence, but not only that, reduce the violence and criminality in both sides of the border.
So before we go, I wanted to ask you about what comes next. Your party, the PAN, National Action Party, had excellent results in the 2019 state elections. And they renewed the whole state legislature, and with 48% of the overall vote, the party obtained 22 seats out of the 36. Do you see this as an endorsement of your government? And in thinking about what comes next, as your term will end in 2022, perhaps there's lessons that you think the country should adopt. What comes next? Your performance seems to have been rewarded by the electorate. Do you plan to cash that in?
Well, hopefully this will continue. We have 2 more elections. They won next year, 2021, where the Congress is going to change. Even though last year we won 21 out of 22 districts, and we have the majority in Congress, we still need to work more. Obviously, we're glad that the people backed us up, by voting for a political party. But it's going to be a good challenge next year, and especially not only 2021 but also 2022, because a new governor has to come into Tamaulipas. There's no re-election in Mexico for the governors, but we're going to keep on doing a good job and make sure that these policies that we have implemented in Tamaulipas can be applied elsewhere in other states in Mexico and have the same results as we have had in the last years.
Francisco Javier Garcia, Cabeza de Vaca, Governor of Tamaulipas, thank you so much for answering these questions.
Thank you, Enrique, and thank you for this interview. It's been my pleasure to be here at Rice University, and I'm looking forward to coming back.
That was Tamaulipas Governor Francisco Javier Garcia Cabeza de Vaca. You can watch a recording of the event with Governor Garcia Cabeza de Vaca on our website at bakerinstitute.org/Mexico. The event included a presentation by the governor, followed by a conversation with our center's director, Tony Payan. That is it for this episode. Thank you for listening to Mexico Centered. Thanks to Lisa Wakata, our program manager, and to Tony Payan, the director of the Center for the United States and Mexico at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. You can visit our website at bakerinstitute.org/Mexico, where you can find our latest publications. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the guests and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of the center. If you have any comments or suggestions, you can email us at usmexicocenter@rice.edu. We would love to hear from you. Mexico Centered is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, Radio Public, and Spotify. You can subscribe through your favorite podcast app to receive all of our new episodes directly on your phone. I am Enrique Quesada. I will see you next time.